You don't actually lose control when you get angry. It only feels that way. What really happens is much faster and much quieter. Something small happens. Someone says a word, a situation shifts slightly. And before you even realize it, you've already reacted. Not because you decided to, but because your mind moved before you could think. And later, when everything settles, you look back and wonder why you said that, why you acted that way. Why something so small took over your entire state. The truth is, anger is not the problem. The real problem is how fast your reaction happens, and how little space exists between the trigger and your response. Most people believe anger comes from what others say or do, but that's not what's really happening. The reaction you feel is not created in the moment. It's built from patterns inside your mind that interpret everything instantly and personally. A simple delay, a different tone, a small inconvenience, and your mind quickly turns it into something bigger than it actually is. And without noticing it, you respond to that interpretation, not to reality. This is why some people stay calm in the same situation where others react immediately. It's not because they feel less, it's because there is space between what happens and how they respond. And that space changes everything. The first reason you react so fast is something most people never notice, and it's called personalization. Your mind has a habit of taking neutral situations and turning them into something about you. Someone doesn't reply, and you assume you're being ignored. Someone speaks with a certain tone, and you feel disrespected. A small change in behavior, and your mind quickly builds a story around it. But in reality, most people are not thinking about you as much as you think they are. They are dealing with their own problems, their own stress, their own priorities. The reaction doesn't come from what actually happened. It comes from the meaning your mind attaches to it. And because that meaning feels real, your reaction becomes immediate and emotional. The second reason your reactions feel so fast is expectation. You expect people to behave a certain way, to respond on time, to understand you, to show respect, and to meet a standard that exists in your mind. And when reality doesn't match that expectation, frustration builds instantly. It doesn't feel like expectation in the moment. It feels like something is wrong, like something shouldn't have happened this way. But the truth is, people are not operating based on your internal rules. They are acting from their own mindset, their own situation, and their own priorities. And every time you expect the outside world to match what you want, you create a gap between reality and expectation. That gap is where your reaction begins. And the bigger the gap, the faster faster and stronger your reaction becomes. The third reason behind fast reactions is the illusion of control. You believe that if you react strongly, people will understand you better, take you seriously, or change their behavior. But in most cases, the opposite happens. The more you react, the less control you actually have. Your emotions become visible, predictable, and easy to trigger. And once that pattern is seen, people don't adjust to you. They either avoid you or push you further. What feels like control is often just an automatic reaction trying to protect you. But real control doesn't come from reacting faster. It comes from slowing down. Because the moment you stop reacting instantly, you break the pattern. And that is where real control begins. Now here is what actually happens inside your brain in those moments. When something triggers you, your mind doesn't wait for logic. It activates an internal alarm system that is designed to react quickly, not accurately. In that state, your thinking slows down and your reaction speeds up. That is why people often say things they regret later, because in that moment, they are not fully thinking. They are simply reacting. And this is where everything can change. Because even though this reaction feels automatic, it can be interrupted. There is a very small gap between the trigger and your response, and most people never notice it. But the moment you become aware of that gap, even for a second, you gain a choice, and that choice is the difference between reacting and responding. This is where the shift begins, and it starts with something simple but powerful: the pause. The moment you feel triggered, instead of reacting, you stop, even if it's just for a few seconds. You don't speak, you don't act, you just create space. Because in that short pause, your mind begins to slow down and your control starts to return. And once you have that space, the next step is reframing. Instead of assuming the worst, you question your interpretation. Maybe it's not disrespect. Maybe it's stress, distraction, or something unrelated to you. And that small shift in meaning changes your emotional response. Over time, this leads to something deeper: detachment. Not indifference, but the ability to stay steady without letting every situation affect you. And that is where real emotional control starts to build. At a deeper level, emotional control is not just about what happens in the moment, it is also about your overall state. When you're tired, stressed, or mentally overloaded, your reactions become faster and harder to manage. Small things feel bigger, and your ability to pause becomes weaker. This is why people often react more when they are already drained. Strong control doesn't come only from mindset. It also comes from how you manage your energy, your focus, and your daily habits. And when you understand this, you stop seeing anger as a random problem. you start seeing it as a signal. A signal that something inside you needs attention, not reaction.